We got a couple of creature features. So let's get into the first one, which is a more recent release. Hopefully you don't have a phobia of eight-legged freaks, huh?
Because it likes to feed on living flesh.
It's all my fault.
We have to deal with this together.
What the?
Sting.
Alright, we gotta be quick about this because it's a double feature review, right? So up first we have Sting. I caught this trailer once on YouTube. Regal did their mystery movie, and it was specifically a horror-themed mystery movie. And here's where the tragic irony comes into play, right? Because normally that means I can review it early, and it was substantially early, weeks before its release date. At the time of recording this, I think it comes out in like 2 days. So, Sting is the latest directorial feature by a Kia Roach-Turner, maybe Koya, like Koya Roach-Turner. Has done several films, but if you were to know him most from anything, could be from the Wormwood franchise. And then I'll give a quick shout out to the two main leads. We have our leading little girl, stepdaughter-to-be, Isla Brown, who plays Charlotte in this. She's been actually several things, but if you were to know her from anything, it would either be the 2020 installment of Children of the Corn, which was that a remake? I don't think people liked it. And the other one, which I actually did review, and it's been a minute since I watched it, but I did really enjoy the movie. We have 3,000 Years of Longing. She played young Alethea? And the other secondary protagonist, might as well give him a shout out. We have Ryan Core. And fun fact about him, I did not recognize him, but he's actually in House of the Dragon. He doesn't last too terribly long. I believe he is Ser Harwin Strong. But yeah, the dude was in House of the Dragon now, and he's getting more movies, so that's cool. Sting is a very simple premise, more or less. Basically, alien spider from outer space lands in an apartment complex. The little girl finds it, likes it because she likes the weird and the outcast and the crazy critters, and she works on a comic with her uncle slash stepdad. But then as she feeds the spider, for one, the spider's not a normal spider. Obviously, we know outer space, but it whistles back at her.
Cool.
It's very quick, and then it just keeps eating like bigger and bigger things, and as it eats more, it grows. And as you see in the trailer, it gets to a point where it's a fairly large, if not massive, not like eight-legged freaks level, right? But it's a sizable spider, like the size of your torso, basically. And then that's the movie, is this spider is running amok in this apartment building, and the people inside are trying to survive it. So I disagree with most of my friends that went to go see this with me. I'm pretty sure I actually had a fun time. Maybe it's because I like horror, I like survival horror, and I'm okay with things not being 100% perfect in terms of quality, right? It's not a great movie, but as far as sci-fi creature features go, I have seen significantly worse, and I enjoyed myself with this one. As somebody who does have mild to severe arachnophobia, I don't know, there were some moments where I was like, oh, don't go in her mouth, but I wasn't too scared. I watched the carnage. When it got full size, it was either CGI or a puppet boy, so I was chill with it. All things considered, solid creature feature, solid direction, made for a fun, dumb movie. Basically, this movie is like a not as good version of Evil Dead Rise, in my opinion. If you want to see something like this, like Stain, but you want it to be better, watch Evil Dead Rise instead. Evil incarnate, loose in an apartment building, people surviving, but that one has way more creative kills, darker, funnier comedy, more brutal deaths, and like I said, it was fun and dumb. It was just a solid time. Some brutal, creative kills, once or twice in the movie. Other ones, not so much. We'll get to that shortly, but whenever it was hitting its stride, it was just the spider terrorizing these people, or the funny little shadow. There were multiple shadow freakouts, or just little gags here and there. Characters that were just kind of very comical, if not cartoon-ish in nature, so just keep that in mind. What really surprised me, I actually cared about the family. Again, very similar to Evil Dead Rise. I gave a shit about that family. I wanted them to survive if possible. I was kind of rooting for them, but the little girl, I don't think she's stupid for taking in the spider. She just likes creepy crawlies and outcast things, and people do that. There aren't spiders from outer space as far as we're aware, but I cared about a little girl, the uncle slash wannabe stepdad who was really trying, the struggling family, him trying to balance his art and his actual like work. Like I can empathize and heavily relate to his struggle. Everybody else in the apartment building, I could take or leave them, right? They all fit a certain character archetype. So the core family, I cared for them, I rooted for them. They're not going to be like well-known horror heroes or like horror heroines, anything like that, but still kudos. And of course, I love the practical effects whenever they were applied. For the most part, whenever the spiders on the walls or the ceiling, it's clearly CG. I get the necessity for it, but there were some scenes, specifically toward the end, where they had a full-size, like, animatronic spider. That was really sick. I like that shit. When people are getting hurt, between the blood and the flesh or the gore, the practical effects of the webbing and the spider's nest, like, they were practical whenever they could be, and I admired that and appreciated that. They were just digital when they had to be. But there are cons, it's not perfect. I think all the ancillary characters in the apartment block are kind of take them or leave them kind of thing. They're fine, they serve the purpose, mostly for the narrative, but they just exist. Digital effects are fine for the most part. There's sometimes I'm just like, spider looks weird, or certain little visuals here and there, but for the most part, the visuals are all there. Plot's fine, and nothing too, literally the outline of it I gave you. Alien spider, family trying to survive and bond as well, and then just surviving the spider once it becomes a massive threat. Okay, fairly predictable. Would have liked if they had expounded more into this alien spider's lore, or anything about that. If they had made what happens in the third act more involved or more presence in the film, if they had extended that whole like the rescue mission type of stuff, basically. I would have liked more of like an Aliens feel to it. The only notes that I had left were most of the characters in the movie are pretty silly, pretty comical, but third act family, I enjoyed that dynamic. And yeah, the creature science and lore is just fairly vague. I like it when movies at least take that extra step in their creature feature to kind of delve more into the lore. This one didn't quite do that. I had a fun time. I might be tempted to watch it again. I didn't love it. It's not in my top tier of creature features. There's much better ones out there to watch if you are feeling one. I think that Cuckoo, oh man, Cuckoo is shaping up to be good. By the time you've seen this, I will have also seen Arcadia, which looks like it could be a fun little Quiet Place ripoff. Steen gets a high 3 out of 5. High 3 out of 5 for Steen. It's just good enough where I consider it above average. I don't necessarily recommend it. You don't have to go see it in theaters. I mean, if you really want to, go for it, but this is like a solid streaming movie. Coming up next, we have a film that I am very late on. I missed the boat for the initial reviews, but I gotta say something because, we love Blumhouse, don't we? Do we?
We call them imaginary friends. You are always playing with your imaginary friend. When the connection is severed, the entity becomes enraged.
He says he's right behind you.
But it was just my imagination.
And up next, lastly, we have Imaginary. Funny that we have this coming out, but we also have If coming out in this summer. So we have like a horror Imaginary Friends movie, and then we have like more of like a Foster's Home Imaginary Friends movie. Blumhouse, or whatever you want to say. I've said it many times, I'll say it again, and I'll leave it at this. Blumhouse is the definition of hit or miss. Imaginary is their latest. I did review their previous one earlier this year with Night Swim, which is fine of a movie, and now we have Imaginary, which is once again just fine as a movie. Director of Imaginary was a Jeff Wadlow, who I did Truth or Dare, which I did not like. PG-13, jump scare, realm of film. If you like that stuff, then sure. And also did Kick-Ass 2. Now, I will admit, I loved the first Kick-Ass. I never saw the sequel, but I know that there were definitely a lot of mixed emotions about it. So our main leading lady is DeWanda Wise. She actually has been in a film that I've previously covered. She played Kyla Watts in Jurassic World Dominion. That movie, not great, but her in it was fun. I liked her character. If you want to reference a better film, she was in The Harder They Fall as Eleanor Love. That's right. So rootin' tootin', cowboy shootin', she was there, highfalutin'. The other lead that I think is the other like good part of the film is the little girl that she's, again, 2 films in a row, someone trying to be a step parent, but you have Piper Brown, who the only references I have for her are Desperation Road and a Super Kitties. Imaginary. I guess you can call this either a supernatural thriller or, I would call it another creature feature. Oh, imaginary friends, they're real. What happens? So you have a little teddy bear, rabbit, or just some type of in your head friend that goes with you in childhood, and those are spirits that are feeding off of that kid's creativity and energy. But then what happens when the kid grows up, grows older, grows out of it and leaves is that energy, that spirit is just left hanging, and it's just unresolved energy of sorts. Just a spirit who feels neglected and abandoned coalesces into anger and resentment and hatred and whatnot, and then it becomes more of a malignant force that wants to lure in other kids, feed on them by dragging them into their imaginary realm and trapping them and feeding off of their energy forever. Is what I gleaned from it. Are real, and they're not nice, as you can tell by the wonderful CGI beasties in the trailer. The pros first, you say? Well, of course. It's like Night Swim, right? It just exists. It's a film that simply exists and is just a fine film that follows the formula and the archetypes. It's not bad, but it's definitely not crazy good horror or subversive or extreme or particularly memorable, in my opinion. In terms of actors, I will say our leading lady and the stepdaughter carry the movie. And the last note that I have positive wise is I like the concept, but ... Like with all Blumhouse films, the concept is sure, yeah, cool, make a movie out of that. But then the execution is almost always so damn hit or miss. It's definitely wasted potential. There's a cool idea there, and it's just kind of minimal average execution that's just fine. Okay, there's some moments that are creepy, there's some jump scares that got me, there's more jump scares that would have got me if it wasn't for the trailer showing me all of them. Yeah, there were some scenes or set design where I was just okay, neat, cool. But it's the lack of exploration of the core premise. Even Night Swim did a better job with exploring the pool and how it existed, what is it, what does it do, how does it work with these spirits and ghosties and all that. This, yeah, sure, it's okay, imaginary friends, here's what they are, here's what they're trying to do, here's where they're trying to do it. How many are there? Is there more to it? Are we gonna have more involvement, or are we gonna get more lore, or just one scene of literal textbook exposition dump? And you guessed it, it's the latter.
Every culture has entities that tether to the young. We call them
imaginary friends.
It alludes to more, but it's barely shown. I don't mean spoiling the film, by the way. By the time we get to the Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends ass realm, at the end of the movie, there's all these doors, right, and all this these MC Escher stairs. I feel they're queuing us up for the end of the labyrinth, right? And you have all these doors that have the implication of different all these areas they're able to access in the real world, like Monsters Inc., right? And you already know what the Chauncey, the evil teddy bear looks like. Some a Skeksis had sex with Winnie the Pooh and it went horribly wrong. But there's implications of multiple imaginary friends. You only see one other, legit, and then some ghost kids. But this would have been prime time to have the Monsters Inc. of boom 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 and all these creepy crawlies, even if for a split second other creatures. But I'm guessing they just didn't have the budget or the time or the creativity to delve into more of that. So everything is mostly surface level, and the creature design that we see is fine. It's either CGI booga booga jump scare, or it's somebody in a suit, well, I'm a scary little guy, and sure, okay, fine. I thought it was kind of creepy, but that's it. The rest of the cast in the movie is fine. The dad disappears and we never get resolution for him. Okay, sure. The other daughter is fine. She serves her purpose. The old lady across the street is fine, okay. I will say the one boy that the older girl like invites over to hang out when stepmom's not home, he's cringe. Clearly an adult writer who's out of touch with kids and what they're supposed to do when the parental units aren't home. Just like teenage writing by adults is, you know, it is what it is. I know who they made these films for, I get it, and it's fine, and I guess they need to exist to have a scale, a barometer, as it were, but it's another PG-13 horror film, so it's not going to be too brutal, aside from what's implied, or some little bits of blood and little scritchy scratches shown here and there. The creature designs can't be that horrific, scary, or tumultuous. I mean, sometimes PG-13 movies toe the line and succeed, but this one, it's just another Blumhouse jump scare fest, all based off of a admittedly like creative, potentially creepy premise, but just with average execution. The movie plays it safe, it's formulaic, it's a creature feature, sure, but kind of creepy, but it's not really too exciting. They don't delve into it as much as they could have, and there's much better out there. I just didn't love it, but I would definitely still give Imaginary a 3 out of 5. Like, it's still average, right? I would rather watch Sting again than Imaginary. This film just is another one of those Blumhouse like filler films. Don't waste your time. I'll end it by saying go watch Late Night with the Devil instead. But thank you guys and gals so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next episode of whatever movie I review. It's another double feature. I know a couple of you like it. I don't know if they really get the most traction, but they help knock out 2 in 1, and some people enjoy them. So thanks, stay tuned, goodbye, travelers.